Lisa Burkhart-Worley along with Michelle Burton and Renee Rollins, and welcome to Pop Talk. We're the program where you never know what topics might pop up. There is a lot of gender confusion in the world, but in today's show, we look at how the God of Israel defines genders with distinct roles and responsibilities that are critical to our health and our well-being. Our guest today will show you that a Jewish look at the Holy Scriptures will open your eyes to the truth about gender. And Dr. Michelle will introduce her.
Thank you, Lisa. Our guest today on today's show is Daniah Greenberg. Daniah is the primary spokesperson and chief fundraiser for the Tree of Life Bible Society. She and her late husband, Rabbi Mark Greenberg, recognized the need for a Messianic Jewish family Bible for the next generation of Jewish believers, so they created the Tree of Life version of the Bible, which was completed in 2014. It's the first vetted, authoritative rendering of Scripture by Jewish believers in Jesus. Daniah is also co-host of the podcast TLV Talk, and she now has written another book. It's called Biblical Feminism, Provoking Humanity to Restore the True Value of Women. So we'll talk about that today. Welcome, Daniah. It's such a pleasure to have you back on our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I know that the term biblical feminism can take on a lot of different meanings. So explain to us what you mean by biblical feminism and what a biblical feminist is.
Good question. Biblical feminism is allowing your femininity, your female self, to be defined by what the Bible says female is, right? So biblical feminists want to go where they're celebrated, not tolerated. Tired of being tolerated for being a woman in the room. Really like to be celebrated for being the second witness to the Garden of Eden. We really are an important part of God's plan for healing the world. Yep. And we live in a binary world. We do not live, we are not one in and of ourselves. God alone is one. We live in a binary creation. So if we're in a binary creation, male and female, He created them. That's the wholeness of creation found inside the relationship between men and women.
Wow. I love that.
I know it. That is powerful. You know, you have a lot of sacred truths in your book. And in the first chapter, one of the things you talk about is breathe life. You told a little bit about a personal story as a child, and I just thought maybe you could share a little bit of that chapter of your life and tell, you know, what was actually going on and how you learned to breathe amid, you know, so much dysfunction in your life. I'm really interested in hearing that story.
I appreciate your asking. I think learning that the breath of life is actually God's name every time you breathe changes your focus on what comes out of your mouth. When you realize that Yud He Vav He, the tetragrammaton, the four-letter name for God that we use as Lord in English, right? Jews say Adonai, but Christians say Lord. But that tetragrammaton, which you might even say is Yahweh, is actually every time you breathe, when it says everything that has breath praises the Lord, every breath you draw is from God. So a machine doesn't keep you alive. We learned that through COVID. Doesn't matter how many machines you have, it's the breath of life that keeps you alive. And the breath of life is God's first gift. It's His gift. It's His Spirit alive inside you every time you breathe. It comes into you clean, right? Supplies oxygen to your cells and then leaves once that oxygen is pulled into your body through your bloodstream. Literally, the breath of life is God's name alive inside you. And so when that breath is cut off, or even we're caused to fear it, like there was a time when we wouldn't have met in a studio. We wouldn't have met face to face because we were afraid that the air between us was toxic, right? If that is not the enemy at work destroying relationship, I think it's so easy to see it now, having survived COVID, that every breath we draw is God's breath keeping us alive inside us. It's that gift of life. And when you recognize that that's tied to anxiety and your emotions that reach all the way to your fingertips, you'll start to see life differently when you go back to the garden and realize that your peace with God begins with understanding His breath is alive inside you, keeping you alive.
That's deep. I may have to write about that. I'll give you credit. But I was thinking that would be a great blog. It's almost like every time we breathe, we're saying the name of Yahweh.
It's exactly what we're doing. It's
Yeah.
not seems, we are. And I'll tell you, I can prove it to you if I could show you the Hebrew letters and how they work. But the tetragrammaton, that four-letter word for God, it's actually a triune verb. It's a triune verb that he was, he is, and he is coming. And everything in the Bible is written in the now and coming. It's never written in the past. We flash back to stories in the past.
Right.
But God's presence alive in our life is alive in our lives is his breath between us, inside us, communing with us. And that gives you tremendous freedom to understand what you should talk about and maybe what you should keep to yourself. And
Wow.
That is so right.
Okay.
you and I would have a great conversation
Yes.
about this
No,
offline.
really, honestly, when I was reading your book, I saw a lot of myself in your book. You and I had very similar kind of childhoods.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated you even more than I already did by reading about what you've overcome. And I was one of those little girls who didn't have a father figure around, and just like you, I began experimenting with sex and drugs, at a, college age, I guess. What was that stretch like for you, and what did you learn from that season of your life?
Thank you for asking. I can put it best this way. I was raised in a household where my father was gone by the time I was 12, right? My mother was a single mom raising us. I was the eldest daughter, which of course made me mommy number 2, right?
Right.
I was scrubbing the floors at 9 years old. So by the time I was 15 and there was boys in my life, my mother put me on the pill at 15. She was advocating me having, sex and drug parties in the house because that's the stuff she was doing outside the house. Now, I will say this. I want to give all credit to God for my salvation experience because I did not grow up knowing God the way that I know him now. But looking back, I can see that all those things I was doing to, fill my soul with, right, was really treating my body like a garbage can. I thought I was sexually free. What I really was a garbage can for anybody else's filth. Because I didn't realize that I didn't value what I had, which was the sanctity of my own life and the wholeness of my own soul.
Yeah, I was going to say it goes back to the biblical feminism. You weren't treating yourself like God designed you to be treated.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't think that, if I'm being really plain about it, I don't know that women really understand how precious they are to God. That we are literally the fullness of creation. Instead of just being purpose-driven, imagine your life presence-driven. Just like we carry the presence, right? The presence of another human inside our womb. Eden is inside us. God trusts women with life. If that is not the greatest honor that God can give you, and if you think that I love Jesus so much. I got saved so radically when I came out of that lifestyle. I got saved so radically. I love Jesus so much. And I've been trained in the Bible for years, but it's the hours and hours I've spent in the Bible myself that taught me who I was. Because another man can't teach me who I am.
Right.
God has to take me by the hand and teach me who he has created me to be.
Right.
Because when you get those wires crossed as a child, because my mother had a lot of dysfunctional people in and out of our house that I thought were totally normal. The same kind of people that you see flaunted all over television today. And everybody says everything's acceptable. Well, everything's not acceptable. People want to be us, but they don't necessarily help us be us. How about we define who we are?
Okay.
Yes. It's vitally
That's speaking
important.
to somebody, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's speaking to me because that means I cannot stop for fast food on the way home. I've got to mark that off my list.
All right, then.
I love that you brought up a good point that you don't need a man to define you or to, tell you what your identity is. And that plays into this next question because you eventually married your late husband, Rabbi Mark Greenberg.
Yeah.
And you learned some valuable truths from him about the human seed, marriage and parenting. So what are some of those truths and how did they impact you as a woman?
You know, I'm going to go right for the jugular on this because I've been doing these interviews for a while and you guys know me really well and you know the God of Israel. So I'm going to get real with you real quick.
Like it.
You said we could pop and talk about anything, so let's talk about
Only
what really
thing
matters.
here on
Only
Pop
things here
Talk.
on
That's right.
But I'm going to tell everybody I know that, okay, so first of all, if you don't read the Bible, start reading it because the Bible changes you from the inside out. The Bible saved my life. It can save yours. There's nothing that you need to know that you can't find in your Bible. But how you perceive, how you learn from the Bible is based on who's teaching it to you. So if women are only hearing from men and not reading it for themselves, they're not hearing God's voice to his daughters because he speaks very uniquely to us. So I had heard from my husband for years teachings on Acts 15. So I'm going to get right to the jugular. Acts 15 was what I was told was the most important scripture for Gentiles, non-Jewish people to hear, because once you accept Yeshua, you are inside the commonwealth of Israel. You are part of the people of God. You are grafted into the olive tree, Romans 8, 9, and 9, 10, and 11. Yeah. We understand that just because we're not born Jewish doesn't mean we somehow have a second place standing with God. Well, it's the same with women. We don't have a second place standing with God. We're the fullness of creation, right? Yes. So when I began to read, so I've been taught Acts 15 so many times, and what it basically says in there that there's 4 essentials that you need to remember to stay away from in order to walk with God. Even if you don't know the rest of the Old Testament, all you know is Jesus, just know these 4 things, right? To abstain from sexually immoral things, to abstain from blood, to abstain from things strangled, and to protect don't eat what's been offered to idols, right? Actually, the funny part is it doesn't say eat. It says anything that's been given to idols. So I've been taught this for years and taught that it was about kashrut. And I do think it's important what you put in your mouth. I think that matters. But what I discovered was those 4 essentials are almost categories for all 613 laws.
Wow.
Because if you keep your breath holy, just imagine if you didn't curse with your mouth. Just imagine what would happen if you paid attention that every time you speak, you're breathing God's name. It would change.
Yeah, it would change how
what you
speak,
do.
right?
100%. But if we would keep our breath, right, our breath sacred, we would keep our blood inside our bodies, right, and we stop killing each other. Is basically what that means. But you can't put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
But tell kids, if it's bleeding, put a Band-Aid on it. Do you realize that's what covenant is?
Right.
The covenant love of God is his ability to cover our woundedness and make us whole. Teach that to children. There are so many important things in Acts 15.
Thinking about all the young girls that cut themselves, drawing blood.
You know,
so wrong.
Can I tell you something we did with the Bible that nobody really gets? Tell you a secret. If you look in your Tree of Life Bible and you look at the artwork in there, when we did the picture of Elijah and he's calling out to God, remember he's saying, we'll see today whose God is real, right?
Yes.
And you're watching this picture. We actually put in that picture pictures of the prophets of Baal that were cutting themselves. Because what you do when you do that behavior is that self-soothing thing is because we know instinctively that blood carries life. So when you're doing that to yourself, what you're doing is you're dying. You are hurting yourself. That should cause you to stop because you don't have to make God do anything. Yeshua paid the price. He paid the price. And so when you recognize that kind of stuff, you can come to people and say to them, okay, what is it that's causing that behavior?
Right.
Because we don't realize that the behaviors that harm us, we don't realize that they're listed in the Bible. We just don't know that they're in there.
Right.
Well, and that's one of your other sacred truths that you talk about, that blood speaks. Right?
It does. Blood speaks. Where do we learn that from? We learn that from the story of Abel. Abel's blood spoke. The Bible literally says it.
We did a documentary called "Their Blood Cries Out."
Did
based
you?
on that. Yes.
Yeah, because can I tell you something? Well, everybody should go watch that then, because because somebody needs to teach this lesson. That blood speaks. Your blood, if the doctor takes blood out of your body, they know exactly what you're eating, what you're doing, what your health is, right?
DNA,
what your
everything.
DNA, everything about you, because blood is the river of life inside you that connects the tree of life, your lungs, right, to the tree of knowledge of good and evil, your brain. Your blood is actually pumping through your body and bringing life, oxygen to your cells, and healing you. That's why the blood of Messiah heals, because it literally pumps inside your body and replaces you with life that flows from the throne of God.
I know you're speaking to so many people right now, Danya. You're speaking to me, so I know you're speaking to them. And so I go back a little bit to the father issue. You were fatherless at a young age. I was fatherless at a young age. And in your book, you talk about the sacred truth about knowing God. And all women and men, of course, need to know God, yada, intimately. So how did you come to know God, though, as Father?
This was such an interesting thing because as I was starting to understand that the Torah is a fractal. The Torah is a fractal. The Torah repeats the same pattern of redemption and salvation again and again and again. The story just gets bigger and bigger. I'll show you how you figure this out. The very first time the covenant, right, so there's obviously something that happens in the garden when they're covered with skins. So there's a covenant, a promise God makes, that seed promise to send a Messiah is right inside the garden. So the very first part of that megaphone, the message of the gospel going out to humanity, starts inside Genesis between a couple. Then it grows bigger when Noah sacrifices that Thanksgiving offering, right, after the flood is ended, right? Then it goes to a family. Then it goes to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which means it goes beyond one generation into the third and fourth generation. Then the covenant gets even bigger when there's the sacrifice with Moses. People don't talk about the Moses sacrifice, but you can see it in the TLV in one of our art pieces. But there's the sacrifice where God covenants with the whole nation that's been born in a day.
Yes.
Then through Yeshua, the megaphone gets even bigger. And now his blood is enough for the whole world. Yeah. When you come to know that the God of Israel has been saying the same thing, I love you, I want you, be mine. I love you, I want you, be mine. I love you, I want all of you, be mine. I love you, I want you and your children, be mine. I love you, I want to be a father to you, to the whole world. So beautiful. No one is outside the covenant love of God. It's the acceptance of Yeshua the Messiah that the Father sent. Then you start to realize that you become a daughter. That the last title we're given as women in the Bible, believe it or not, is daughter. Is daughter. That's the last word that shows up. If you start watching all the words for the female in the Bible, it starts with female, but it comes out the other side as daughter. And so we, as women, because we're the fullness, our daughterhood is way at the end, where son is way at the beginning with Cain and Abel. So if you'll recognize that it's like the two trees in the garden, there's a space that God has created, right? The Alpha and the Omega, male, female. There is beginning and end. There is a fullness in the knowledge of who we are in God. And when cancel culture, try again. And when cancel culture dominates a society, society breaks down by eliminating two, because they're trying to say that it's not binary. And that's a lie from the pit of hell. It needs to be ended immediately. And if women don't take their place by proclaiming the gospel, if they silence us, that's just like silencing Anna at the coming of Yeshua into the temple. And I'm not about that.
That's right.
Wow, and there are a lot of people that believe that we should be silent, because there's some teaching
absolutely.
in the Bible. I've actually had somebody on social media place a picture of a woman with her mouth taped shut, just signifying that, which is wrong. It's not
biblical feminism.
Right. They need to read your book.
Read the book. No, honestly, we cannot cancel each other out. Do you realize that if we were canceling out women, then why are men having their sexes changed? What's the point of that? If women aren't valuable and powerful in the kingdom of God.
Why do they want everything women have?
That's right.
They're trying to become more and more
like
women. It's really
it is. But what I know is the truth is that women have been called by God to publish and proclaim the good news. It says it in Psalm 68:12, 11 in your Bible. It says, a great company of women proclaim the good news. I don't know if you know this, and what you guys are doing is so powerful, because women are literally created to proclaim the good news. And to publish and to proclaim are the same word in Hebrew. Did you hear me? Publish and proclaim are the same word. Cool. If they can silence us, they silence the witness of God on the earth, and I'm not having it.
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to keep talking.
We sure are.
Which brings me to that you met your late husband, Rabbi Mark, and in an interesting way. He was a friend of a friend, which is usually how it happens when you meet somebody in most cases. You were a Catholic girl. He was a traditional Jew. Can you share a little bit about the meeting and also about how Rabbi Mark came to believe in Yeshua Jesus?
You want me to share about the meeting of when I met him?
Yes,
Oh, you're kidding.
course.
Okay, so crazy story.
Everybody wants to know how somebody
I know.
met somebody.
It's so crazy though. It's so crazy. So I had been out partying the night before, and it was actually his brother. And we were out partying, and I was doing every wicked thing because I hadn't really come to the Lord, right? I was just doing anything that I shouldn't be doing. And so the next morning, looking very disheveled and wearing all my street clothes, this really sweet guy walks in the room. He's the brother of the guy that I've been out partying with. And within 1 week of meeting him, he started sending me roses. And
nice.
This is crazy. Don't you love that?
Yes.
He started sending them to my work, not like one bunch, but bunch after bunch. Wow. And within probably within probably 3 or 4 weeks, we were dating, and within 6 weeks of meeting him, we were living together, and within 3 months we were. I'm forgetting the timeline now. Probably within 12 weeks, I was pregnant, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do, right? Because I had accepted Jesus in a jail cell with a stolen Bible.
Wow.
6 months earlier.
Did I read that in your book? I don't remember that.
I had gotten to the bottom of my life when right before Christmas, back in, I think it was 87, I have never given the year before, back in 87, I ended up in a jail cell for shoplifting because I was being kept by a dude who let me stay in his auntie's house, but he took my paycheck every time I walked in the door. Women don't recognize that they can become captured and enslaved in relationships, and I was. But when I got free was when I got caught by the police. I was put in a jail cell. In that jail cell, I was like, okay, God, you're gonna have to get me out of here. Actually, the way that I said it was, I said, if you get me out of here, I'll follow you forever. There's a life and death choice when you realize you're pregnant. Yeah. And this time, though I had made 2 bad decisions prior to this, which I write about in my book, which God has forgiven me for, once I gave my life to Jesus, I just couldn't do it again. I had been through an abortion. I had had my body hollowed out. I couldn't do it again. I just had to do something new.
Right.
I couldn't do it again.
Right.
Yep.
And she's sitting right over there.
Yes.
That's my Mandy.
We love her too.
And
I do, yes.
I couldn't do it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I remember, but I'm like, I've done this twice before. So I remember walking out. So I walked out of the bathroom, and Mark is just this sweet guy. He doesn't know anything about the Bible or God or me or Christianity or anything. And I said, I'm pregnant. He goes, this is great. We'll get married. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what else
Usually
to
the
say.
response a man gives to that guy.
I'm like, oh, okay. But I just remember going, I honestly, if I'm being honest, I felt trapped all over again.
Yes.
I had been trapped with a man who I'd been stealing for while I put myself through college. But now I was trapped again. But it led to the most beautiful life where I raised the most beautiful children and led so many hundreds and thousands of people to Jesus through the TLV. None of that would have been possible if I'd made one more bad choice with my life.
Right.
And it really comes down to, can you make a choice for God and can you keep walking that direction?
Yeah,
and so I've walked with him all these years, but it's because of the Bible that saved my life. It wasn't a church, it wasn't a pastor, it wasn't someone else telling me how to have a relationship with God. I just opened up my Bible and I just read it again and again and again, and I read it again and again and again, and the words healed me. The words of the Bible heal you.
Yes,
they
And
do.
that's why I wanted a Bible for our children. And that's why I'm here today. The Biblical Feminism book, as awesome as it is, it's my attempt to give women a fast forward with the lessons that I learned because I wanted a Bible for children.
Right.
This is my life's work, not biblical feminism. A Bible in the hands of children is my life's work, because if anyone had told me I was God's daughter as a child, I wouldn't have used my body as a garbage dump, and I wouldn't have agreed with all the lies the world will tell you about what sexual freedom is, when that's not what it is at all.
That's right.
Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants life.
Right.
But if you find it in the wrong places, it destroys you. It does not build you up. And the Bible can build you up. And that's what I'm here to talk about. The biblical feminism is the idea that you don't need a man to teach you about God. You need a Bible in your hand to learn the truth for yourself, so that you can grow and change and raise healthy children.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I never changed really until I started doing Bible study.
Yes.
I didn't.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. And I'll tell you, women are the backbone of the United States of America because we are in our Bibles. Our Bibles are what make us wise. Our Bibles are what make us strong.
Yes. Yes, it is. Thank you, Daniah, for your powerful story, and for a fascinating talk about your life and biblical feminism. What I see from your story is that the Lord speaks truth,
Yes.
into our lives, and shows us our worth if we see him. And Daniah, your book again is titled Biblical Feminism, Provoking Humanity to Restore the True Value of Women. And you can find it on Amazon, and you can reach Daniah at the tlvbiblesociety.org.
And don't forget the Bible app.
Yes.
The Tree of Life Bible app is awesome.
It is amazing.
It is. Yeah, we just were so grateful for you, Daniah, and I relate to you so much, and so thank you for sharing your story. And I know you've helped so many women who are watching today. It's incredible. Thank you again for the work that you do. And we hope that you're going to follow Pearls of Promise Ministries on social media. We're on Facebook at Pearls of Promise Ministries. We are present on Instagram at pop_ministries, and we're on X at Pop Talk Media and Pearls of Promise. Check out all of our award-winning documentaries and past Pop Talk shows on our YouTube channel at Pearls of Promise Ministries. Our most recent documentary to fight Holocaust denial, Their Blood Cries Out, with a title song called There Are No Words by our own Renee Rollins, was just named Best Documentary Under 30 Minutes at the Content Media Conference.
And thanks so much to our fantastic production studio, Grace Point Media. For all your media needs, go to gracepoint.media. And we're also so grateful for our 26 television platforms and radio. Thank you so much.
So that is today's Pop Talk show. We're just ordinary girls
Who God turned into pearls. Have a wonderful week.